I wake up really early to do work. I end up sitting in the office, listening to music on my headphones while I'm doing work. And inevitably what I end up doing is, when I wander into here to get things like in the middle of the night, if I'm like feeling a little bit tired or a little bit hungry, I eat an apple. Because apples are good for keeping you awake, and also we buy too many apples because we buy them in packs of 6 and we don't need that many anyway, because we need to buy 2 packs of them. Also, I don't want to get the habit of eating things like biscuits and stuff, because I'd end up getting fat or whatever. Anyway, so I leave the office, turn the lights off. Obviously the office is the only one with the lights on. I wander into here, got my headphones on, make myself an apple, cut it all up, get myself a glass of juice, wander through. I've got this light on in here, turn this off, wander through, open up the door, put my glass and my plate down so that I can go to the toilet. And then I wander to the toilet, press that we've got a little push light so that you don't have to turn the fan on, because if you turn the light on, the fan turns off for like 45 minutes. It's really irritating. So you have this little push light. Learnt to press the push light, and then Laura's just having a wee. I fucking shit myself, I did. She was trying to warn me, but I've got headphones on and it's pitch black and I couldn't see her until I literally put the light on. And I literally, if I'd have carried one of them plates, I would have ended up on the floor. I nearly died. Otherwise, this morning though, sorted out a video and did a load of scaffolding for my party service. I've created the domain and all the infrastructure for Mediator and all that kind of stuff, so that I can store, and sagas and things like that, so that I can store information about parties. It's productive. I am still learning. I was watching a Pluralsight video on GraphQL. I think I'm going to go balls to the wall and have a GraphQL API gateway which is talking to REST APIs. That's my plan of attack. Because that way, if it works out great, then I can just roll with that. And if I need to upgrade any of the REST APIs to GraphQL, I can, with relatively painlessly. And also, if I need to drop GraphQL entirely, then I can just drop the API gateway and replace it with a REST gateway instead. So that's my plan of attack. I think that's the most logical way. But I think GraphQL has some nice stuff. It has some nice features, which, considering the size of the domain of knowledge that I have, will come in handy big time. I store very specific data on my platform, and it's a very specific but broad data, and I feel like REST is going to be an absolute nightmare to manage. So, first day of the year, well, de-icing the car. Oh, it's beautiful. It pushed me late, not necessarily because of that, but because when there's a change of weather, and I think the kids are back from school as well, everyone forgets how to drive. So just traffic is naturally bad. But I'm going to have to start leaving a bit earlier if I need to de-ice my car and then contend with school traffic. A bit nippy on the bus, but not only do I have my mittens, I also have a hand warmer. Time flies, ladies and gentlemen. We had a pretty productive day today, as we were churning through some work. We've basically got this branch ready to rock and roll and get committed in, which is good stuff. We also have, I've just finished a pull request because the other member of my team, it's his pull request, but we can merge it and get it deployed early in the morning. He's busy with some other stuff, so I was like, you know, I'm just gonna friggin', literally, it's so self-contained. I just did a merge and rebase, and the only thing that friggin' merged was the header, because we both added something to a header, and it was like, oh man, so beautiful. Nothing feels more boss than a perfect fucking rebase where nothing complains. It's just like bam, 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 done, boy. And you're like, oh god, I love it so much. Yeah, so we were playing around with the API and figuring out how best to do this thing that we're doing at the moment, where we're searching 2 separate databases. We have that all nailed in now. I believe the JavaScript's all in. I've just got to wrap up the tests on the back end, and then we had a meeting to discuss our developer stuff, different patterns and all that malarkey. We were talking about Vue.js as a potential framework for the front end. We were playing around. Last time we demoed Angular. I think we're having discussions, which is what my other teammate's doing. Discussions regarding Angular versus that one. I feel like I'm 99.99999% sure that Vue is the way we're going to go. Personally, I think that Angular has a lot to offer, but I think we're going to end up going with Vue. I don't think that's necessarily a bad call either, due to the circumstances we're in, like the members of the team and whatnot. I personally think that it's worth doubling down on Angular, but I think time is playing against us basically. One day, ladies and gentlemen, one day. We tried our best, that's all you can do. Otherwise, came home, had a nap, and then we headed on over to Beth and Ben's, had like a nice little catch up and a little chin wag. A lot of stuff's going on in their life, not much is going on in ours, apart from my sleeping pattern. Nothing, we didn't have anything to report to them, but they had a lot to report to us. So we're heading on over there. It's been jolly good fun. Laura went to bed early, like 10ish, and it's about 11ish now. I'm going to go to bed. We've got a relatively busy day tomorrow. It's going to be a weird week actually, to be honest with you. It's going to be quite a strange week. But we're going out for a meal after work and drinks after work. So I'm longboarding to work. Problem with that is, when do I have my evening nap? Because the two naps I'm good at is the morning nap and the evening nap. But what I'm not very good at is the lunchtime nap. And I'm going to be relying on my weakest nap to get me through. If I get, well, no, I'm not saying that if I can get up at 2 o'clock, but I'm pretty confident that I feel like I'm going to struggle to get up this morning. And I also feel like I'm definitely going to struggle to get up tomorrow morning if I am staying up late, going out for bevies. I was not wrong. I could very, very quickly go back to sleep right now. Been looking into ways of managing dependency injection in ASP.NET Core. Well, .NET Core, I guess. We've been talking about two different things recently at work, which is, one is figuring out a way of using dependency injection for integration tests. Like, you don't want to duplicate dependency injection, because otherwise you're basically not testing your code. But yet still having the ability to mock out things like the database or message buses, things like that. So I was looking into ways of doing that recently, and also we were looking into ways of verifying in a unit test that your dependency injection has been configured properly. So those two things kind of came into a loggerhead, and I've kind of built a service collection provider builder, where previously you just kind of add things to the service collection and then you you just like run the code with that service collection. Happy days. What I now have is like a builder which has like generic, well not generic, well yeah, has like generic hits on it. So it's like add common dependencies, which is for normal stuff, add login, add database, add service bus, all that kind of malarkey. Integration tests can then extend that class and overload the virtual methods, which are the Mongo database and the thingy, and then that way you're able to mock out things that you don't really want to do in an integration test if you want to. The other thing that it gives you is the ability to use this thing specifically for the message bus or a web project. Instead of having to go through startup, you don't necessarily have to configure that kind of setup. You can just use this thing in its place instead. And what was the last thing that it provided you? Because you have access to our service collections, you can verify the output. So you can basically throw, this is something someone at work was throwing together, which I've used before when I first did my project in final year. I had, it was running full fat framework and I was using Simple Injector. Simple Injector has like a .verify, and it verifies everything in the collection by basically trying to create an instance of everything. And if it can't create an instance of it, it'll fail. You do that in a test. You even do it in your production code if you wanted to, which I think I did because it was a console app, so on startup it would just do a very quick verify. And then you'd know for a fact whether or not you've wired it right, instead of having to wait until the scenario that fires the thing that you want to figure out that you've wired it incorrectly and all that malarkey. So Dibsy spun up an instance of that which would just generically call iService collection, which is really nice, instead of having to use Simple Injector. I was looking for the cheap way out of going, I can convert an iService collection into like an autofac container. An autofac container means that I can use this NuGet package over here that will do it. The disadvantage of Dibbles way is the exception message isn't quite as good as I'd want, but it's like perfectly readable, but it's it doesn't give the amount of detail that you would necessarily, which it could give you more, but it's enough. It's better than what we've got. Yeah, you could use a combination of the two of them to basically go, here's a startup, run this thing. Using this service builder, is the whole thing valid? Run a test around it. Thingy. So that's kind of what I've been working on. I've been working on it. Well, I've like I basically implemented it into my own project, into the consumer of one of my microservices. I'll look into putting it into a web API project in a bit. It's going to be a little bit harder because I'm fighting against the pipeline a little bit, just a tad. I'm sure it'll be possible. What else then? Yeah, so that's what I've been kind of working on, and also like implemented the consumer part of this message bus consumer, and I need to do the domain model, which means I'm going to look into now ahead of time unit of work stuff for MongoDB. I'm not sure whether or not it's overkill. I can imagine a world where I want to run database connections in a transaction, so I can roll them back. Now I'm starting to say out loud, it seems like overkill. I can't think of a scenario now where I would need that, because it's bang, there you go, in, out, happy days. What scenario would I need? But anyway, I've come to a natural stopping point, so I'm going to chill out for a little bit, wind down, read my book before going back to bed. It hasn't actually rained, but the floor is a little bit damp. It's like that really weird, like, slicky grease, you know what I mean? Basically have no choice but to longboard today. Not only are we going out for drinks after work, even if I didn't have a drink, I would probably be too tired to then drive back safely, so take the longboard, get the train, have a nice relaxing drive in, and reminisce and fantasize about a life where I can just coast in every day without having to get the train and costing me £10. This bit's the worst, because not only is the floor really slippy, but like the camber of the path really slopes you into this ditch. I feel like I'm getting outclassed. Always got to have a bit of a go at cyclists when I do this. But you know who I've got no time for? Is people who go down here like really fast, like excessively fast. You don't need to cycle that quick, but then overtake you so close that if, while they're overtaking, I take 1 foot off the board to push, I touch them. One, you don't need to go that fast. 2, you don't need to go that close. Like, you're so close, your handlebars come over my wheel. Then you have the nerve to go, mate, as you go past. Like, don't be a fucking dick. If you fell off, do you think I'd give a shit? No, it might be a bit harsh. What I always boil it down to is cars, when you're overtaking, you're supposed to, and should do, leave about a car's width in between you and the thing you're overtaking. Whether that's a bike or another car or whatever. Cars are less, whatever. So that's the rule. Or is it half a body width? Either way, if I'm overtaking a bike on the left, I will go onto the other side of the road to overtake you. I won't just squidge past. Likewise, the same rules should be applying to a bike. Or me, if I overtake a pedestrian or another bike, like this girl here, I'll go with miles between us. So if she steps left, I've got time to react. So if I was in the middle of the path and didn't give you much choice, fair. But I'm not. I'm always in the gutter. Anyway, rant over. Look at this, longboarding through. There's a lot of, oh, they're putting up Christmas decorations. Just cruising through though at this time of night. This city was made for longboarding. We had a jolly good fun evening out in the bars. We went to like this gin bar. I'm not a fan of gin per se. I had 2 gin cocktails and neither were particularly nice, but it was good fun. And then we went to a restaurant and had a meal before heading off. I left at about 10-ish. Because I wanted to get a lift home, basically. I knew if I'd stayed later, the next train wouldn't be till like gone 11, and then I'd have to longboard back, and then it would fuck up my sleeping pattern. Whereas because I came home so early, I was able to just get up at 2 and be alright. So there was there was 2 gins and basically 2 small glasses of red wine, so you get a bit crazy, boys. But it was really good fun. Otherwise, this morning I've been kind of having a fight. I've been finishing off a story that we're doing at work. We've just started to try and integrate in with something that the other guys have been doing. And basically we've been like in this world where we've just been dealing with SQL databases which already exist. The other guys have been working with Mongo, and I feel like we're doing it wrong is the problem. And I've basically spent this morning trying to figure out how to do it right, because I'm literally just about to start writing things to my database, my Mongo database. So I need to kind of nail this down. And I think the problem we have at work is that we're allowing this SQL database, which we have no control over, to have an effect on the domain model, and therefore the Mongo database. And it's just kind of fucking us over. It's like, because what I was looking for a way, we're storing inheritance stuff, for being able to search for things in a child dependency in line. So if it's this type, search for these fields, I want to filter on these fields, but I want to sort via this. So I want to still only take the top 10, no matter what type, but if it's this type, do it this way, if it's this type, do it this way. And I can't find a way of doing that. It's not something that seems to be very well supported. So I was trying not to basically make that mistake myself. I'm trying to like figure out, because the contractor that I work with is like really good with Mongo, like he knows what he's talking about. And I feel like we fall into the trap, or I as well, keep always naturally falling into the trap of treating Mongo like SQL, and you shouldn't do that. So yeah, I'm trying to like define that space, and I figured out like what we've got going wrong at work. Figured out how I want to structure it here, because I have this scenario where I essentially want to have groupings of people, and I was thinking of this world where I would store individuals and groups, or individuals in an organisation. So an organisation could have employees, or be able to see the organisation's stuff, or a team, let's say. Probably a team would be better. But what's fucking me up, and it's basically because of what we're doing at work, is the database treats all things like an entity, like there is a base object for it. Now in this world, in my world, an individual isn't the same as a group. They're in the same domain, but they aren't the same thing, so they shouldn't inherit from each other. And I was starting to go down this inheritance route, like we've been doing because we've been forced to via the old SQL. And yeah, so I've like got myself into a bit of a mess, but I've regained focus and started to hit it. One at work as well is like absolutely fascinated by my sleeping pattern. Like it comes up all the time. It's like I probably spent more time talking about my sleeping pattern than I did any other topic on that night out. But I mean, it's working all right for me. I did contemplate staying in bed this morning, mainly because I think the alcohol, rather than being actually tired. But it's a good way of sobering up, isn't it? I'm awake, so living the dream. Anyway, I'm going to go and nap. And then get up, and we're going to hit this day hard. Wednesday, I'm going to try and finish this. Yeah. Laura's going to netball tonight, I think. So I should have some free space to work in the evening as well. Get loads of shit done. Oh, I've done no vlogging today because I've been getting off the bus at the same time. Getting the bus with someone at work who got on the same bus as me, even though I was running very late this morning, which wasn't good. Day of like meetings and stuff today, but managed to get a PR in. I had a bit of a Git disaster though, as in I rebased, did an entire pull request and deployed to dev, without merging in another story that had already been signed off. And then to make it worse, I had the wrong tab open, and then I completed that pull request. Now I completed the pull request that I'd just put into test without the thing before, so I had to revert that, create a pull request with the revert, get that merged in, then needed to complete the pull request for the other story, rebase on top of that, create another pull request because I had to delete my old branch, and then friggin' deploy it that way. It was an absolute nightmare. Otherwise, I've been Laura went netball, and I have been taking a bit of a deep dive into dependency injection. Something that we've noticed recently, like at working specifically, is that there's a slow feedback loop between getting information about your dependency, whether or not your dependency injection is valid. When I first did my project, I had I used Simple Injector, which has a verify function, which basically means that it will verify that your dependency injection is complete. And then you can either do that in a test, or you can do it the first time the program boots and all that kind of stuff, and it's great. Problem is, that doesn't exist for the ASP.NET dependency injection abstractions framework thing, which is like the Microsoft's kind of skin on top of everything. So in theory, you can have loads of different types and it'll all conform to the same thing. You can just swap and change. Absolutely great. Except I was actually reading through a shitload of GitHub comment threads and documentation. It basically all says that that's not the case, and it only works for conforming things, and there's like a load of technical reasons why they need to change the core thing to be able to support other people's stuff, because very few leading DI containers have been made to support the core one, which is very interesting. So it does mean that I'm probably going to have to look into implementing my own version of that, which is less good, less fun, because, like I say, I can't use the other one because it doesn't support .NET Core. Just a bit of a pain in the ass. Well, ASP, specifically ASP.NET Core, which is all the MVC stuff. I'm thinking phase 1, which is what I call between 2 and 5. I'm going to run that into the project that I've currently got. Then once I've got it running and I'm happy with the way that it works, I'll NuGet package it up, and then try and inject it into a different project. The project that I'm currently working on at the moment just has a consumer in it. It just has a message consumer. So I don't have the problem of not having MVC. Which means arguably for this one, and for anything that uses this thing, I could just use... I've also tried to generate a generic wrapper around the containers and how it's built up, so that I can also mock it with an integration test in the same hit. I wonder if I could do that too. I think the pattern that I have is reusable enough to be like NuGet packaged up, so that can be like a set configuration area, because it's like very specific to, oh, this one wants a database. Okay, here's the database method, so you can overload the database. I can't genericize that. But there is no reason why the one that I've currently got for this message processor can't be simple injector or something like that, because there is no MVC. So, but then how do I approach it not to have that one? I had a bit of a deep dive, and I think it's one of those problems that I need to understand a little bit more before I just ham-fist something together. So I'm going to live without it for a bit, and then I'm going to whack it in. I need to, like, the idea of being able to inject this stuff in and all of this malark is something that is really interesting, and I want to be able to see how to do it properly, basically. But otherwise, I have now completely finished everything there is to do about registering a new user. So I've registered the user, they've allowed them to log in, to activate their account, to verify all their stuff. They then log in. While I've verified your account, I've spread your data out to a different microservice. Microservice is then registered all your information there, and then from that point on, you exist on the system. Like, existing on the identity server isn't the same as existing on the system. So now, as soon as you're in the infrastructure, you are there for good. And now, I am going to merge everything into master, which I think is the first time I've merged things to master that aren't NuGet packages. And then I will be looking at starting some new stuff. I have like options to spread about now. I don't necessarily have to do like filling out the rest of your details. I have enough details to run with. I can do registering code sources and all that kind of stuff. I think I may do that first because I think it's more important. Registering your details on the platform is relatively minor. There's this whole idea of how it's going to generate how it's going to work fundamentally. I think it's going to be relatively interesting. I'm looking forward to it. So that is my plan. God damn. Yeah, the dependency injection thing it's a difficult problem to solve, especially to solve in a way that isn't just tightly bound to one solution. And the way that it does the iService collection thing, it's not ideal. It's being cluttered with a load of stuff that isn't what you want it to be. So I essentially want to use something. I don't know what I need to do. I need to have a deep dive. Boy. So I woke up this morning thinking that I'd forgotten to wake up at 2. So I got in the shower, annoyed at myself, then got out of the shower and realised it was 2. I don't normally have a shower at 2, I normally have a shower like at 6:30. So, a bit weird. I need to keep a bit of a closer eye onto how much I'm talking into these videos. The video's already long, I have to end it today. I've gone through and configured all of the pull requests, so I've got that all set up now. I've got 4 pull requests to look through. Yay! Like an insane amount of code in each, but, well, not in each of them. Identity service got the most. But I'm going to go through, make sure that I've done everything properly, fine-tooth comb it. That's what my next plan of attack is. I'm also looking at, because I started to use Visual Studio Online to do tasks, but the overhead of doing that is just so much that I think using something like Asana is going to be much better, because Asana is like a lot closer to like Trello style of just, you just add tasks. It's just basically a glorified to-do list, which works much better for what I need, I think. So that's what my plan is there. God, I'm trying to bring myself to do these pull requests. I've got like an hour before I have to go to bed. Well, hour before I have to go to bed, especially because I don't have another shower. So. Pretty long, busy day today. So much so that I've basically just flipped nearly 24. Well, not nearly 24 hours. It's night time now. About to go to bed, and still in the same outfit because I had a nap after work and I just put pajamas on instead of getting dressed again. So today has been pretty busy. It's been pretty all over the place and a bit hectic, to be honest with you. At work, I've been like focusing on trying to get this story over the line, and like little things keep coming out of it, little regressions that have started to bubble out. It seems to be a lot more fragile to regressions than it used to be, the platform, based on like some of the architectural changes that we made, and that is being a little bit painful. And otherwise, the main annoying thing is I keep jumping onto the next branch to try and like force through some work there. But then every time I've switched branches, I've got stuff sorted, I've started working on it, and then, Jimmy, can you just look at this on the other branch? I'm like, God damn! An insignificant amount of time to change branches, and, well, no, not change branches and reset everything up and then go again. It's quite annoying, especially because I've got uncommitted changes that I can't really commit because they'll end up crushing someone else's stuff. Anyway, that's by the by. But we got it sorted, we got that through. We also had a big thing today about like rejigging how the domain model is going to be working. So the data that we're storing in the database and the how that data is represented in the platform outside of just the... Hey, that's cool. I like that. I got that yesterday, but also the date's wrong on my watch. No, it's not. So the kind of like shape of the data as it's in the bit of the program where it's doing all the processing, we've like essentially figured out a way of defining that so we can abstract away from the database representations, which is really important because we have 2 different types of database, one of which has a horrendous representation of the data, which is what we kind of bled up a little bit, and then the other one is like our nice and clean one, and the problem is because of that's bled up, we've bled like a bad SQL representation into Mongo, and it's just not happy at all. So yeah, that's been pretty good. We made progress there. I've also been looking into ways of doing my stuff that I was talking about this morning. It looks like I'm going to be doing it slightly differently to how I thought. I need to start diving around with Git APIs / Visual Studio Online API, see what kind of data it gives me. Because I was thinking about basically creating a file structure inside Mongo, essentially. And I've realised that that's actually not a great idea. Based purely on cost, it would work alright, but on cost it doesn't really make sense. So what I might be trying to do instead is basically store metadata about each file and then store each file in blob storage on Azure itself, which is significantly cheaper. It's not necessarily quicker, but it's significantly cheaper. It means I'll have to query my database and then go and get the files. But it's ideal. What I essentially thought of was try and, on my platform, store the instructions to create the file in Mongo. That was my plan. But it looks like it might be a better thing just to store them on a blob storage, and then just, because then I can, the idea was I could pass around that instruction of how to create it to several microservices, to several different agents. But if it's all in one storage, I've got one source truth, bam. So that's probably going to be the way I'm going to go there. I was looking into that. Otherwise, it's been really busy. Came home, we've just been go. We are having a bit, well not really a long weekend, a short weekend away. So we are like going out, leaving here tomorrow night after work, basically straight after work, and then coming back Sunday afternoonish, I think. So we've been like packing, sorting stuff out that we need to sort out because we haven't got much time tomorrow. I've obviously got to have a nap in, so I'm semi-conscious of having to drive tomorrow, because I'll have like my evening nap, but like now I'm quite tired because that's like the whole idea. I still haven't put my clock back. That's like the idea is of this sleep cycle is you train yourself to sleep well in your naps, in your like sleeps, so you naturally get tired on the run up to it, whereas previously I was just like kind of hardly ever tired and just going to bed as and when I wanted to, and then that fucked me. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to render it and get it uploaded in the morning, because I'm just doing code reviews for my own stuff and research into like Mongo stuff, which is really good. The guy that I'm working with knows Mongo like the back of his hand, and it's really useful. So I'm trying to like leverage things out of him as much as possible. But yeah, so I'm going to be looking up at that, and I'll sort out my video, try and get it uploaded. But if not tomorrow, then Saturday, I can always put it on my laptop and it should be right, but we'll see. So, sorry this has been a long video, ladies and gentlemen. To be honest with you, next video probably not going to be very long. You know what it's like when I'm travelling. The videos generally don't go, well, it's like with family as well, so the videos inevitably are going to be just me barely non-existent. So I apologise. Look forward, subscribe. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch you later.